Hi, Soman.
What's happening over there in LA?
You sent me your heat wave. What the hell?
Well, you guys deserve it. We struggled with it all summer, and it was just like parked over St. Louis. I feel like we were the only ones who got it, and now it's about time.
I'm going to piss you off because I'm going to tell you what my heat wave number is compared to your heat wave.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, I live at the beach, so 85 is about where we're topping out.
Oh my God. We were at 99 and then like 85% humidity to the point of like, I'm brown and can handle anything. And I would go outside and be like, even Indians are like not evolutionarily adapted for this. Like even
now we're getting into eugenics right off the bat.
All the Indians in Mumbai would have been like, we're not doing this. They would have flown to Sweden.
Well, you're in New York. How's the weather in New York?
Very cold. And I feel like it doesn't make any sense. Like
the
weather patterns are so, somehow we have a bit of a hurricane. Like I didn't even know hurricane season had started. Well,
it almost sounds like you're in fall. And for me, the big fall thing is crunching a leaf. Have you crunched a leaf yet?
No. Scott keeps talking about how like, everything's going well. And as soon as like the grass turns dry in August and you can hear the crunch under your foot and
that's different. No, the grass turns dry because it's hot. I'm talking about crunching a leaf like the golden leaves of fall in Central Park are falling down and Meg Ryan is frolicking somewhere and you crunch a leaf.
No, we're in gray, muddy, murky Voldemort sky August.
Anyway, on that note,
we begin.
Hi, I'm Victoria Aveyard, the author of The Red Queen and the Realmbreaker series.
And I'm Soman and Victoria, author of the School for Good and Evil series, and welcome to Plot Twist, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the biggest swings in our career, Victoria's Tempest, her very first novel for adults, an epic pirate fantasy.
And Soman's Young World, a red-hot young adult political thriller. Each week, we go behind the curtain of our creative process and we give you our hot takes on thorny issues in publishing and entertainment. We answer your mailbag questions and we pitch plot twists that we want to see in real life.
And today's hot topic, and it's one that's been brewing for a while, what do authors owe their readers and each other? Two questions in one. It's like a double whammy today.
It's a twofer.
We're going to get there. We're going to start with our first segment, where each week we're going to come up with a word or phrase that encapsulates the essence of our week on and off the page. Well, why don't I go first since we were talking about leaf crunching? My theme of the week was gearing up for fall. Like, those Sunday scaries where you're going back to school when you're, in high school and college in August, where you're just like terrified of going back.
No, I was always really excited to go back to school.
What is wrong with, what in the world were you looking forward to?
Well, college especially. I loved college. I had a great time in college. I loved my friends. I loved what I did. And, I was going from small town New England back to big glamorous Los Angeles USC campus. So I was very excited. Shut up. You went to Harvard.
No one wants to go back to Harvard.
You were excited to go back and be like, I'm in Cambridge.
No. You go back to Harvard and everybody has already done all the reading over the summer and everyone's shuffling.
Are you Elle Woods? Were you Elle Woods? Like, I wasn't aware there was an assignment.
I wasn't quite at that stage. I am now, but I feel like now if I went back now, I'd be Elle Woods. But back then, like, do you feel like overachievers shuffle? Do you know what I mean? Like they do the shuffle and like their arms are at right angle and they're always running somewhere and they're like, I'm so busy.
I don't run, but I am definitely like, teacher, you forgot the homework.
You're like, yeah. It was always like you couldn't talk to anyone at Harvard because everyone was running somewhere and they were all like doing labs or running for, head of the International Relations magazine or something. It was all very frustrating.
Damn.
I was just trying to get a date. But I think
I went to a fun school, so can't relate.
Okay, hold on. We had a point, which was theme.
You had a point. I'm just here for shits.
Yes, we were talking about Sunday scaries and going back to school in college. And I feel like I'm getting that a little bit. And my theme of the week is gearing up for fall. I feel like I'm in this low swell sea with the big tides all coming, because the next 12 weeks are actually going to be insane. I've been worrying about them for the last 2 years because I have to launch, Young World to readers with the cover reveal and the pre-order campaign and essentially like begin the runway of the book coming out. Then I'm going to host those Coach Alpha workshops in St. Louis, which are 2 really full 90-minute kind of stand-up motivational shows, like Tony Robbins style, which is like requires like a lot of prep.
I would prefer you to Tony Robbins for sure.
I agree. Not my favorite. Then I go straight from those into Y'all Fest SmackDown rehearsals, which we haven't even announced yet. So if you're listening to this pod, don't tell anyone that I'm hosting the SmackDown yet.
Do you need help? I won't help you.
I'm definitely calling you on stage, as I always do. I'm hosting for the 5th time. This should be the last one, so God help me.
You say that every year, just so you know.
It requires learning a 7-song, 6-costume change, 12-minute dance routine. And I always try to up the level. So, like, where am I going? Last time was, like, perfect. There's nowhere to go.
I really do hope you took out the Harry Potter.
Yes,
okay, good.
No Harry Potter this time.
Fantastic.
First time in 5 shows, there's no Harry Potter. And deservedly so. It's gone for right now. For those of you who've seen the show, you know that I put way too much effort and suffering and delusion. the number one ingredient.
Heavy on delusion.
But it's my one and only chance to be Madonna. And so I can't let it go, even though I keep trying to pass it on to other hosts. So the combination of those 3 things, Young World, Coach Alpha, SmackDown, is just like, it's a lot. The good part of it is that the Coach Alpha and SmackDown rehearsals are going to be in the evenings. So I can still write during the day and do my normal job and go to play tennis and go to the gym. I'm just going to have no life. Like, I'm going to have no social life.
I just can't believe you don't drop at least one of the fitness things per day.
Impossible.
Like, it's shocking to me that you're taking on, by choice, all these other things, which essentially become, there's that saying, you're juggling balls that are glass and balls that are plastic, and you let the plastic ones drop. And I'm like, in my mind, the tennis every morning, that's a plastic ball. It's not the end of the world.
The tennis I love too much, and the gym is what lets me then be able to do the SmackDown, because the SmackDown is 12 minutes of straight cardio. So it's like you have to kind of like be ready for it. But the dance rehearsals then are killer at night too. The whole thing's a nightmare, but it's temporary. Like, I just have to tell myself, November 15th, I will go to the spa and be done.
Yes. Do you tell Scotty that you're essentially not going to see him for these weeks?
Well, he'll come visit. I'll rehearse, at the farm. Like, he's used to it. We've done this before. And he'll come to Charleston. Last time he came to see the show, he's like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I remember we went out to dinner after.
Oh, and my God.
I will never forget the image of Scotty, who is, Missouri farmer. He's there. He's very tall in his jeans and his hat. And he's carrying your show bag, which has a bright red scarlet feather duster, like jacket, trailing out of it.
Sequins.
And you're just la down the street talking. You're on your adrenaline after the show, like very, very valid. And Scotty's just silently walking behind you like a bodyguard, trailing your red feathers.
He's so used to it. During the whole School for Good and Evil movie, every time we'd go anywhere, people would come up to him and be like, during signings, and be like, can I go? And he'd be like, yo. And then he was like, oh shit, they think I'm the bodyguard. So then he started having fun with it, being like, wait a second, hold please.
Hold please.
Hold please. All right, tell us about your theme.
So my theme is getting back in the groove. I'm working on a new book entirely, and I'm enjoying all of those new book butterflies. So it's the opposite of the Sunday Scaries. I'm like, new book butterflies.
Yeah.
I would say it's like dating a new person, but I've only dated one person.
What? Is that true?
So, yes.
My mind is blown.
Is it?
Okay, define date.
Like, I've been on a date with other people, but I've never dated anyone besides my
dated means
husband.
More than how long?
Like more than 1 or 2 dates.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's like fairy tale. That's like everyone's dream.
That's like loser.
I'm the opposite, where like I literally went on first dates with everybody in Manhattan and just would be like mixed. I treated it like job interviews.
That's what I'm saying. Remember, our mutual friend was like, you got to treat it like job interviews. And I was like, I don't know about that.
You know what?
My husband will find me in my living room. And he did.
You know what's really funny? And I'm curious if you feel the same way, which is like, now that we've been in such stable relationships for so long, if we had to be single again and go on a date, don't you realize like how completely like unreasonable it is? Like you're doing this kind of like first meeting with the highest stakes of like, is this person gonna be like in there with you for like the rest of your life? It almost feels like if I went on a date right now, I'd sit opposite the person with like extreme intensity and be like, what do you got? Like you got
what do you bring to the table? Because I bring a lot.
Like if this is gonna work, like bring it. Like I need to see everything. Like I would just be way too intense, I
don't know if I would be intense or if I'd be so, if this doesn't work, it's not make or break for me. Like you take it or leave it. It's almost like you have those fantasies of not fantasies, but you think, if I was transported back to high school right now in this second, I would just be like, this doesn't fucking matter. These people, this struggle that I was having at that exact moment, who gives a shit? It's not going to matter. I would just have fun with it. And I feel like I'm one of those straight women who's like, yeah, I love my partner so much. They're wonderful. They're everything to me. If they were to touch wood, disappear off the face of the earth, never speaking to a man again. I found the one I want to speak to. I'm done.
I got stuck on the idea of going back to high school. I feel like I would just walk into all the athletic teams and be like, just so all of you know, I keep secrets. That would have been my strategy.
Bloop. I like that that's your thought about high school. Was like, you're going to score more. And my thought about high school was like, I'm going to stress less.
Okay, people are listening here for writing, publishing.
No, they're not. They're listening for our sparkling chemistry. Anyway, so it's sort of like new date butterflies, I assume. Mm-hmm. So you're discovering the world, the story, the characters, and I'm also experiencing that sort of like magical, uncontrollable sparks of brilliance that you forget you're capable of. Especially when you're so deep into the work and you get into the edits and the proofs and all of the nitty gritty, you forget you're capable of almost creating something from nothing or creating something from disparate pieces to come together to something new. And I had one of those moments the other day where I was on a walk listening to music and my brain just went, this is the ending of that series or that duology. And it's going to be this line and this thing and this is the keystone. And I was just like, I just did that. Yeah. So while I am moving back into Tempest with those edits, I'm bringing with me that sense of like, you can do this. Mm-hmm. You're good at this. You're meant to do this, which I think is very easy for us to forget when we get into the weeds. Otherwise, I leave for my European tour in less than a month. And I feel like people on this podcast are like, we've been hearing about this tour for fucking weeks, Victoria. Just get it together. But the thought of so much travel, I'm away from home for almost 4 weeks.
It's a long time.
It's really exciting, but also kind of terrifying, mostly because I'm worried about my dog, just because she like has her chronic health issues. Obviously, she's staying with my parents or my parents are staying with her. It's not going to be a big deal. It'll be fine, but I still worry about worst case scenarios and what's going to happen there.
Have you been away from Indy for that long?
Yeah. So last year when we went on safari, we were gone for 3 weeks. And that was when we were still figuring out her illness. And luckily the friends who stayed with her, the night before we left, we figured out her medication dosage and what she should be getting to keep her completely like happy and stable and normal. And then we left for Tanzania and we were like, we won't have great cell service, but basically I wrote out, this is me, I wrote out almost like, I don't know what they're called, but computer science people will, like a list of if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do this. If this like thing doesn't work, then do this. Yes. And I wrote out a huge, like almost every scenario I could think of. And they were like, she was perfectly fine with that.
It'll be totally great. You'll be in Europe surrounded
the stress. I definitely have a little bit of trauma when it comes to that dog. And I love her so much.
No, it's going to be amazing. Well, on that note, why don't we move to our next segment, which are our goals for the week, where we try to set milestones and next week see how we did. This episode's goal of the week is presented by Wordsmith Workshops, which hosts workshops and retreats for writers at all stages.
Created by New York Times bestselling author Beth Revis and Kristen Terrell, you can join them in person in a city near you or online at wordsmithworkshops.com.
So let's see how we did with last week. Tell us about you. How did you do last week?
Okay. So my goals from last week were to continue to beat out the sequences of the new book. That is happening. I've basically got my act framework and I'm filling it out with story points and scene ideas. And so I'm like, okay, this moment that I'm thinking of is absolutely the end of Act 2. This moment is the midpoint because this is when the story changes or hinges. This is the inciting incident. And I'm almost just like pulling these little moments and fitting them together, and then you start filling in the blanks in the middle. So I definitely, when writers tell me, I don't know how you write in order, like I have these scenes and then I connect them, I'm like, I kind of do that too. I just do it very, very early on sort of like a skeletal level. So that's what I'm building is the skeleton of the story. My next goal was to, like, as a little treat, draw a map. I have not done the map yet. Sad. Upsetting, but very excited to do so. I am world building with the characters, the names, fleshing out the development of the world before I go in and start creating the actual physical geography. Like I know what I'm doing.
All those notes. Do you have like a separate
Scrivener?
document?
entirely in Scrivener.
Okay.
And so I haven't really, so Scrivener keeps things sort of on the left-hand side in two buckets. One is the draft itself. One is pretty much everything else. And so I have, a document that's for the world, for the characters. I have a name bank of like the names that I want to use in case I need like an extra name at any time. I can just pull. Something you would, a lot of people are like, that's what I use ChatGPT for. And I'm like, you can just do that with your own brain.
Like coming up with names?
Yeah.
How can you let ChatGPT come up with
How can you let ChatGPT come up with names?
The names is like your whole...
It's part of the fun.
But also it's like the name has to come from, like you get to invent a name.
Right.
Oh,
and it has to be part of the world building. It has to be concurrent with the rules you're already placing down. Anyway, so I'm doing all of that right now. And I'm almost like... I'm like a child doing a report on a country where I have my little fact sheet. I'm like, this is the kingdom, and this is the monarch, and this is the form of government they use, and this is their economy, and this is what the geography of, and I'm loving it as a kid who loves what are those tri-board posters? And then,
yes.
Yeah.
For the science fair, I made many of those.
Yes, I did one on Henry VIII. Went to the state finals, and then we got trounced. Of course, all of this, the fourth goal was if the Tempest edits come back, all of that gets shoved aside. I'm still hanging on those, not a big deal. And then my last goal was to clean my office. And to that I say, LOL.
That's there with the folded laundry.
I mean, look, there's like a whole pile of books behind me that haven't moved in, I don't know, a year?
To me, it looks totally normal. But
it doesn't. It doesn't.
What was I going to say? So what are your goals for this week?
Right. The goals for this week, continue working on that new book sequencing and then get that bare bones skeleton into something that looks like a synopsis because a synopsis would be required in any sales packet. When I did the proposal packet for Tempest, the synopsis, I did like the kind of the overview of the story, and then I did the very, very intense outline, which was like 12 pages. And I don't know if I'm there yet to do the 12-pager, but I definitely want to get down a good couple of pages of this is what the story is.
Interesting that it's so long. So when I did the School for Nemo proposal, mine was 90. Like I basically wrote the novel because I was a debut.
Well, you did the first 90 pages of the actual draft, right?
It was a 90-page treatment. It was really, really detailed. I feel like that was the only way, like, I know it was kind of crazy. But then
But you don't know? How did you do that?
I think it was just because I was coming from movies and that was the only way I knew at the time. And then the first book was really outlined, but then from there, never again. With the new fantasy series, I sold that off of basically 1.5 pages. So I'm curious as to like, whether there's a standard.
I know. And I think we were in a space where, I could have possibly sold the proposal on less. So the Tempest proposal was like a 12-page synopsis along with the first 3 chapters, a world document, almost like a query sheet.
Yeah.
So it was a longish packet.
Yeah.
And I know we were in a position where if I really wanted to, I could have sold it off of more of a pitch, but we would have had a harder time getting what we wanted. And I really felt comfortable. I really enjoyed the idea that people were going to get what I was doing. Obviously, one of the things with pitching and with selling creative work, you do want to leave little gaps so the person listening can kind of fill those in themselves and almost like fulfill their own wishes.
Yes.
But you don't want to cross over into the side where that is then misleading. And then they've paid all this money, they've got all these big ideas, they're so excited, and then they read the thing itself and they're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and now we're on the back foot. Now we don't know how to sell this, now we don't know how to market this, and now I've sort of lost my motivation, my being the publisher, to do this story. So I want to be really careful about that.
That's a really good point. And we'll talk more about that in a second because I have a point on that when we talk about the goals I was going through. Any others that you have for this week?
Just continue world building. I do really want to get that map in. And then obviously get back in on the Tempest third draft because that's what it's going to be, the third draft. I have a little less than a month with it once it comes to me. And then my last goal, which is more personal, I need to buy a new carry-on before this trip. and I need to stop obsessing over the dimensions of carry-ons. I have my Excel sheet. I keep going through it. I need to just go out and buy a carry-on.
You know what would be really funny? If you just send me and tell me, oh, help me with this. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do some research. And then I put into ChatGPT and don't tell you and then send back the findings. And I feel
I'm
like
just never going to trust anything you say to me. I'm going to double check everything you say. That's all. I have been using TikTok for reviews for luggage, and now all my TikTok is luggage.
Okay. Well, as long as you're getting some outside help on this.
Right. Oh my God. But those are my goals. How about you?
So mine for last week was my NYC Beauty Week. I do feel prettier. I feel
you
like
look
I'm
prettier.
More organized. Then go to the Random House meeting. It was all went great. Met everybody. Success by
Huzzah.
By what I wanted it to be. Wrestle with the back cover design. We sort of agreed on a possible solution. I should be seeing that shortly, and hopefully that'll be the end of, because like a cover is the front, the spine, the stained edge, and the back. And so
is the spine done? Is there anything like?
I was like, looking at the spine, and I was like, could we maybe and I was like, just be quiet. Like, it's fine.
But the spine's really important to what it looks like on the shelf.
I totally agree. I might change the angle by like 2 degrees.
Jesus Christ.
And then start to ease back into full-time work on fantasy book, which is just not going to happen in New York. There's too much going on. So next week, I'll settle back into that. Goals for this week. I'm writing a Substack essay for the C.S. Lewis Substack.
Ooh.
And I want to do a discussion on how the White Witch turned a lot of boys gay. But I just feel like it's good. That won't fly.
I gotta say, you being obsessed with the White Witch with Jadis is so on brand, like obsessively on brand for you.
I know, 100%. And so I want to just be like, she turned all of us gay. But I feel like the C.S. Lewis estate / Substack is going to be like,
you can't know.
We have a different angle.
Soman, they're not going to be down with that.
So I want you all to read my Substack on the C.S. Lewis and see what we compromised on.
I wish we did. Maybe we can get a little artist to design you in the sleigh with the white furs rolling along, luring children in with Turkish delight.
I feel like everything I've ever done is kind of me as the White Witch in some capacity.
But now I'm imagining like you're Edmund out in Narnia and you're like, oh, cold in my little coat. And then the bells come up and up comes a sleigh and it's this white wrap of fur and the camera rises and then you turn.
I just would have put the funny thing on both sides. If I was Edmund, I would have looked at her and been like, listen, I know what you're up to. Why don't we just skip to the part where I'm your henchman for life? Like, I'll just help.
I kind of did that in Realmbreaker, where I had the moment where the person's like, how about we get married and take over the world together? And the guy's like, okay.
100%.
I loved it.
So yeah, check out my Substack and see how we
see if someone gets sued.
And then my second goal, I only have one other goal for the week, is my fantasy book revisions of chapter 1 through 8. I finally gave it to my editor. I have a new editor for this one because my editor of 10 years retired. And she gave me the most interesting note I've ever gotten. I didn't want detailed notes. I just wanted her reaction. Mm-hmm. And her reaction was, I absolutely love this. Like, I don't have any big things. I just think it's going fast. And you can slow down. And I have never heard that in
I would think,
12 years.
Especially in this climate for YA and like maybe upper middle grade even, I am shocked.
I know. And what's funny is, so I gave it to my agent and he came back and he was like, I actually have the same exact note, which he was like,
I'm rubbing off on you.
He couldn't believe that. His argument was, Young World is so fast. I mean, it is a speed. It will capture everyone whose attention is like fractured by different things. Like, this book is designed to like force you in and you won't stop because it's just that fast. And I think that speed I brought into this. And so it was a little bit like, slow down, you can name things, take a moment, what's over there? Because in a contemporary world, you know all the details of the room. You know what, and in a fantasy world, like when you're first introducing the world. And so School for Evil really moved fast, but I think it benefited from we know magic school. So like your brain kind of fills in a lot of the gaps. and because this is a totally new world. So I spent, so it's 20,000 words, that sort of first big chunk in the first world before we go to another world. And ultimately, when I'm revising, it'll probably be another 4,000 words. So it's not like I'm adding a huge amount, but it's just like it's a little bit like just bringing it down from moving at Mach 10 to like Mach 7.
That's also when you said, I was bringing the previous sort of format over with me and I had to break myself out of it. That reminds me, when I first wrote Red Queen, I was going from screenplays to prose. And then you're like, whoa, I can describe things.
Yeah.
I remember my first book, my editor, once I had an editor at a publisher, she was like, just so you know, I don't know what pretty much any of the characters look like. Like, you have to go back in and really talk about like eye color, hair color, and really give me some descriptions of them. And I was like, what? Because you don't do that in screenwriting. But it's interesting, this idea of taking what the previous book demanded into the new book and finding out it doesn't work.
Well, also, here's the other interesting thing, and it's something I brought up with my agent too, is that I think Red Queen and School for Good and Evil benefited from the fact we were screenwriters.
Yes.
And both those books moved so fast and at this like, movie pace, which is why anybody with like any kind of, fractured attention or reluctant readers, like it was such a good gateway into reading. And so I kept being like, but I want this book to be the same. I don't want it to be, I want it to like just grab you. And he's like, and it does, but you can still slow down.
I actually, strangely, also got that note for Tempest where they were like, Victoria, this is adult. The readers will dance with you a little bit longer. You can get a little bit deeper. You don't have to rush. And I'm like, huh? What do you mean?
But the note, tell me if this is true or false, because I know very little about the romanticy space. Argument I was
I'm
hearing,
not in the romanticy space. I'm not touching that.
No, but the question was,
I get in trouble.
A lot of the books just kind of, the second act is just kind of hanging around, having banter.
That drives me nuts.
And kind of nothing. They're going on a journey to basically nowhere.
Am I reaching for the stars here when I say every scene must serve a purpose?
I was hearing that no, not in romanticy.
Well, I just finished it last night. I just finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and it was so good.
What is the genre of that book?
It's like historical fiction. Okay. I would almost like magical realism, historical fiction. I would also probably, because it is set in our world, but I think there are shades of dark fantasy in there as well.
Yep.
And it has a really strong romantic subplot. And just every piece of that story is firing on all cylinders. Loved it. And I really, really admired the structure. I really admired how every single scene was deliberate and every single scene moved the story forward. And I remember... it's almost like the difference between fan fiction and prose writing, where, in fan fiction, there are different demands, there are different expectations. Readers just want more time with these characters or in these worlds. Whereas in a book, everything has to service the forward momentum of the story.
Yeah.
So they're different. And that's why I think when you have these transfers, you are automatically going to a different audience with different expectations. And you're relying upon your previous audience to like do the work for you and translate.
Yeah. Well, speaking of audience and transfers and all these things,
nice segue.
These are buzzwords for what you all have been waiting for, which is industry nonsense. And we will be back with it in a moment. This week's Industry Nonsense is sponsored by First Draft Pro, the writing app whose own hot take is that your book deserves better than Microsoft Word.
Keep your notes, outline, and draft all in one place with First Draft Pro.
And we are back with Industry Nonsense, where we dive into thorny issues in art and publishing that other people are always afraid to touch, and we are happy to touch them. Our question for this week. Oh, God. On that note.
We got Soman as the White Witch luring children, and we're willing to touch them.
I know it. Of course, the question for this week is, what do authors owe their readers and each other? Where is the cancel button when you need it before we even
It's
started?
on the other side of the room. I forgot about it. You're safe. You're free.
Luckily, you are the one ranting this week. So
I am really ranting.
You have to begin. So tell us everything.
Okay, so what do authors owe their readers and what do authors owe each other? Also known as the parasocial behavior episode. So let's be real. We could do multiple episodes on this topic from pretty much every angle, detailing our own personal experiences with the issue, but we're going to try and give a bit of a broad flyby. So what is parasocial behavior? It's a kind of psychological relationship experienced by an audience in their mediated encounters with performers in the mass media, particularly on television or online platforms. So coming to think of the people in your phone as friends. It happens all over the social media space, but we have this added element. We as writers, we don't just exist in the phone, we exist on the page too. So authors and readers have always connected through the work itself and maybe in person at signings or talks, but the last decade has marked this huge boom in how we reach readers via social media. And that comes with so many benefits. We can reach out to our readership directly, to market, to build community, to hear voices we would have never heard. I truly believe that I am fundamentally a better and more informed person because of social media. Truly, there are voices and perspectives I get to experience so outside my bubble that I would have never understood or experienced before. But as we talked about in the social media worth it episode, there is always a dark side, and that dark side comes in the form of parasocial relationships. And I'm not talking about someone, disliking your book and posting a review that you don't agree with. That's not what this is. I'm talking about someone feeling entitled to your time and energy, maybe just to poke you, just to see if they can get a rise. Maybe it's to do actual emotional harm via the virtual medium. Sometimes it stems from just a want to engage, to want to be noticed, to want to be acknowledged by that person who they see all the time and think, if I could just reach them. And sometimes it's as simple as the other party just not seeing us as humans. We're faces in the phone, we're names on the book. That's it. For the most part, this negativity is experienced virtually, in the comments, in the DMs, and the tags. And for the most part, we do what we can to ignore that negative and to not engage, to turn the other cheek. None of us want to be accused of punching down, even if that's the only way to get someone else from punching you in the face. And I'm bad at biting my tongue. I'm bad at that. And even I know turning around to defend yourself almost always ends poorly, and it always drains your energy. I do think it's important to note that the crossing of boundaries online and the begrudging tolerance of parasocial harassment that is expected of us, it leads to crossing boundaries in real life. And when this does happen in real life, authors being told to stomach virtual abuse naturally leads to authors feeling like they cannot push back against personal harassment and abuse elsewhere. I'm thinking of a very, very recent example. There was a dark romance convention, and this is all still ongoing and still kind of unfolding. But several authors and performers at the con were physically and verbally harassed. They were groped, basically sexually assaulted. Someone was even bugged with an air tag. And many authors have come forward to say that lines were crossed and they didn't feel safe calling it out. I totally get that. I've been in that position where I felt unsafe at an event and known the best thing I could do was to pretend it wasn't happening. And none of this is acceptable. But somehow we are in an environment now where people do think, a subset of people do think that behavior is acceptable, and they perpetuate it. And how the hell did we get here? There was also an incident recently at Worldcon. It wasn't physical, but I think also extremely indicative of this entitlement factor that we see develop in parasocial relationships. At a panel Q&A, an audience member asked George R.R. Martin, the author of A Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones series, they asked if he would hand A Song of Ice and Fire to Brandon Sanderson to finish, and essentially intimated that George was going to die soon. When I heard from someone that happened, I could not believe it. I was just, and this person got up in front of a room and said that. And I couldn't believe they didn't just explode into dust from shame. And I just couldn't comprehend the thought process that could lead a person to do something like that, to stand in front of someone who created something that so many people love, that they love, and demand they let it go for their satisfaction. I could not wrap my brain around it. And there's another parasocial element that doesn't get talked about as much, though I know author group chats, we all certainly touch on it. And it's the parasocial relationships between authors themselves. And I think it's a little more benign, but it rises out of this pressure to build community with other writers, which is wonderful. But it can sometimes create this disingenuous motivation. And the relationships become false or transactional. And I know I'm not alone in having to learn how to figure out Who is someone just looking to connect on the shared ground? And who is looking to use me for their own career? I also really try to be vigilant in my own boundaries because they are so murky these days. You know, when you start to say like, oh, that person is my friend, and you realize like you've only ever interacted with them via like Instagram likes and occasionally comments or maybe a DM. I mean, I do it too, and I try to be cognizant of it, but it's weird. And we always say like, oh, it's fine. It's just so nice to meet you in person because we've like, quote, met, but we haven't met. I also think there's another side that only comes with time and experience and understanding the division between colleagues, work friends, and real friends. I consider all working writers my colleagues, like we're all in one big cubicle farm together. And then things get muddier from there. We've all experienced what it's like to be on both ends of this divide. Like, you're my friend, but I'm not your friend. And that's always going to be really hard to navigate, especially when so much of the so-called friendship happens online. So I really hesitate to let people in to be close with anyone, especially this is really my kicker, if I've never met you in person. We're colleagues, absolutely, maybe even like work friends, but I hesitate on the full whack unless we have spoken face to face. And even then, it takes some time. The necessity for social media blurs all of these lines. Authors either want to genuinely engage with each other or they feel pressured to. And we all have horror stories about readers crossing the line as well. You know, stalking, threats of violence, things sent to our homes, unwanted touching at events, to the more sort of benign assumption of a relationship that doesn't exist. But it's still very uncomfortable to have to navigate. And now for like the actual question that we're talking about, what do authors owe readers? Well, on the one hand, beyond a book, we don't owe you anything. And you don't owe me anything. There is a misconception that if you bought my book, you bought me and my time and my energy. No, you already got my time and energy in those words on the page, on that piece of paper. The story is the marketed item, not me. I can engage in any way I want or not engage at all. Now, is it nice to interact with readers in the community? Of course. But is it required? No. And readers don't owe us anything either. Like, they don't owe us reviews or posts. They don't owe us their time and energy either. And I guess what do authors owe each other is kind of similar. You know, we don't officially owe each other anything that other colleagues don't owe besides like, you know, basic human decency. But no, I don't owe you advice or a read or to advertise your work on my platform. I've been told that before, that like I'm not supportive as an author because I don't use my platform as a billboard for the books of people I don't know and have never met, for books I haven't read. And I remember being very confused by that statement. None of that is owed. It can certainly be like earned through genuine relationships or if it's like a genuine motivation of my own. I mean, it's always wonderful to share those things, but I hesitate to say anyone is owed anything. As always, I advocate for everyone to protect their own space, to give exactly what you are comfortable giving and nothing more. And just please, please take care of yourself, because the parasocial relationships, every single day, they get weirder.
I like that you're really marking this as something that is developing and potentially getting worse, because I think it's really important, because I've watched your career over 10 years and I feel like you have given back more to the writing community really than any author I know, because you're constantly making content about educating new authors and aspiring writers and, you know, looking out for scams and teaching them how to talk to their agents and publishers and fight against forces that would, you know, diminish their art or power. And I feel like you've always been in there giving your time, you know, whether to fans or to other writers and especially to readers. And even now to, you know, our listeners, it's just been a big part of you. And I think when people go on tour, I feel like they really want to connect with you. And I've always felt that, like more than most authors I see, like they just really feel like they know you and want to connect with you. And, you know, for 99% have respectful boundaries and everything like that. But I think over time, there's been this shift, not just with you, but I think with other people in general. And so I have some questions that might sort of open up, you know, ideas, which are, you know, I'm thinking of Anne Rice, who used to have I always think of Anne Rice, but she used to have a voicemail box, and that's how she solicited feedback. You could call and leave her a voicemail. And if she was particularly galled by your, you know, your response or whatever, she might call you up. And there was something about that kept distance for her. And also it filtered people because you couldn't just like angrily type a DM or something. You had to call them with your voice, talk. And there's a difference between typing and talking. And I was thinking about now, like, not only is it so easy to come in and kind of, leave your 2 cents in a moment of rage, but this idea of like, I'm guilty of this too. Like, I see my favorite celebrities on TikTok or tennis players, especially on Instagram. And because I'm watching their reels and watching their things and their interviews and everything, your brain doesn't know the difference between kind of imagined reality and reality. And you start to think you know them. And you can't help it. You almost feel like, and especially even with podcasts, right? Like I listen to Pivot.
We're doing it right now.
We're doing it. Like I listen to Kara Swisher like 3 times a week, right? In her various podcasts. If I saw Kara, it would be impossible for me to interact with her in a way that wasn't other than—
Are we making things worse for ourselves?
I think, yes, I do. But I think with Kara, I treat her like a friend because I feel like, and so there's something in the digital space where just by looking at people's, their face, like in the old days, if I loved Madonna, right? She was so inaccessible, right? She was so—
She still is.
Yeah, she still is. But she's still on Instagram, in her underwear every 2 days, showing her. So like she's in a way, less mysterious. So I just feel like there's something in before authors, artists, celebrities, everybody were at some level inaccessible. So you didn't feel knew them. You were kind of in awe, or you were fans of them, but it was always from looking up at them, even if they were terrible people. This is different. This is a demystification.
Yeah.
And so I wonder what you make of the fact that part of what we like doing, you and I, is demystifying ourselves. But I think that also causes some problems.
It does. And it's all in service of continuing to do this job. Like we're doing this not just because we enjoy it with each other, but the bottom line is we're doing this because we want our books to reach more people. And so you're almost bargaining pieces of yourself to try and get more people to come and buy the book. That's just what it is, because we want to keep doing this. We love our work. We want it to get out there. We want it to have success. And you are in this very weird equation of what pieces of me am I okay giving?
I think there's a difference also in males and females. Like Jason Reynolds, who we both adore, talks about when he goes into a school and when he goes into an event, he's not selling his book. He's 100% committed to selling himself and be like, if you like me, if you like my story and the way I handle myself, you're going to buy the book. Of course, everyone loves him because he's amazing. But I don't feel like he's the product of— he somehow attracts parasocial relationships because there's something with a male that I think you're protected from. To me, there's something unique about it where— because even I don't get all that much. I feel like people always just see me as kind of the fun guy, but they do keep some sort of distance in a way that they don't from female authors. And I wonder if
I wonder, and I almost wonder too, if the genre has something to do with it as well. Like YA fantasy, sci-fi, adult fantasy, sci-fi. Having spoken to friends who are women who write like YA contemporary, they're like, oh my God, you guys have it. It's so different over there. And I really don't know what it is about the genre that changes things. But from what I've understood, speaking to friends, and we've all talked to friends who work in adult too, and they're like, come here, it's safe. And you're just like, it's not really anymore.
No.
Especially if you're a woman writing YA or adult or new adult genre. I don't know what it is. I will say, I think in the past, like I've thought about this a lot now where I'm like, oh my God, having heard about things going so wrong at a convention, I was like, wow, we're really, but for the grace of God, like that could happen anywhere, because for the most part, it's so based on the attendees regulating themselves. And we've been so lucky in that we are at events that are pretty well run, but then also have really, respectful and wonderful attendees. And we can't count on that. We've been able to so far, but maybe we can't keep counting on that. Who knows?
I don't know. I think it's something that's going to develop over time, where we're going to start to see, whether people start to become so used to the way the internet operates and its sort of, simulation that parasocial relationships decrease because they start to understand the separation, or whether it just continues to get worse. I don't know, The other thing I was thinking, two thoughts. One was on the
Mm-hmm.
idea of fantasy and romantasy. Maybe it is this idea that, you've built this parallel world that
Mm-hmm.
these people live in, readers live in. And when I read like an amazing romantasy or a fantasy or something like that, I do hold the author in awe of like, you created this universe that I now psychically live in a way that is different than contemporary. There is this idolization
Mm-hmm.
of like their mind and like how their spirit created this whole thing. It's more deeper and intense. You almost want to like get inside their soul somehow and understand how it was put together. The other thing I was thinking about, we were talking about author friends and what authors owe each other, and I always encourage other authors, like, don't do the networking thing. Like when you're at a festival, like just or
Oh,
something like that, like or at an event, like don't just like kind of blanket try to meet everyone, and it's like high school, and you're just trying to like meet
don't hand
every
out your
social.
swag
Don't hand out your
at the
swag.
cocktail party. That you keep that for the readers. It is so much more useful for them. Don't you're in a colleague space, not finding a consumer space.
And not only colleagues, like the idea being like especially if you have a long career, like you and I do, you're gonna see these people over and over for
Mm-hmm.
a decade. So I always just say, find people you actually
Yeah.
like. Like, so when we started 2014, we were on tour really that whole year. And I met a lot of authors because I was a debut, so you just meet, you're constantly on panels,
Right.
constantly at festivals. I met everybody. And I felt like at the end of the day, there were two kind of ride or dies that I left with that I was really friends with, you and Jenny Han. And,
You got great taste,
we
Soman.
were early in our careers, and we just had fun and we laughed, and, that was it. And, the fact that you two went on to become, your own versions of supernovas feels
Well,
like just.
not to jump in, but I do want to just say, Jenny, let's have a moment for Jenny because she's having quite a moment right now. I was just on Instagram and I saw she was reposting. They're showing like Summer I Turned Pretty in bars, and the people are like filming the live reactions to the show as it's happening. It's just like that is the dream.
It's
Girl is living the dream.
Well, the thing about
Incredible.
Jenny, I would say also, is the things that make her a great friend and a cool person to hang around, like
Hmm.
the things that we're attracted to with her just as a human, before any of this happened, are the reason she's so successful. And
Yes.
so, all those qualities. And
Sheer
so,
force of will. I don't think I've
yeah.
ever met someone with so much like force of will than Jenny Han.
And commitment to our vision and all of that
Yes.
stuff, and just the ability, loyalty, ability to be a good friend.
Hmm.
And so I think one of the important things when you're starting out is just find your friends. It is a little
Hmm.
like high school, but don't worry about who's popular or
Yeah.
who has power, because that all changes. Like
Yeah.
one year you're up, one year you're down. But if you genuinely find the people you like.
Yes. And again, and I think we've probably said this on previous episodes, but I really don't want people to rely on only forging the relationships virtually if you can help it.
Mm.
If you are at events, if you are doing a writing event with another author, if you are at a convention, if you are at a festival, please don't skip the cocktail party.
Mm.
Please try and grab a coffee or a meal with the other person before you write, or go out with them after. Like, these are the really opportune moments to actually create real bonds between people that you just cannot do online. You just can't. And those are the moments that are, I mean, obviously we're there because we want to meet the readers and we want to sign the books and we want to, have the panels and do all of that wonderful stuff. But there is such a benefit to the social aspect of meeting other authors, of getting to commiserate. It's almost like, we've talked about it before, it's almost like summer camp or some conventions that are really, really bad. It's like hazing.
And you have to go in with this kind of open heart. Like, I was on a
Mm-hmm.
panel maybe a couple of years ago, and Lynn Painter was seated next to me, and I knew nothing about Lynn Painter. Like, had never read her books, anything like that. She was new to me. She was so funny, and we just had the best time on that panel. I don't know. We were just in our own little thing, and I'm like, I would be friends with this woman wherever she is. And then she like, little did I know that Lynn Painter sells like millions of books all over the world. But like, we had already forged this like friendship. So like, I think it's just coming at it with no guile about like who
Mm-hmm.
people are, what their status, whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, sometimes I just like to go to panels and see if I like anybody.
I do
Like,
not do that.
who's interesting, who makes me laugh, who's funny. I'm
I
always looking.
definitely have been on panels or a few times seen panels where I'm like, oh, I love you. That's great. And then I'm like a little fangirl, kind of like, how do I talk to them?
Yes, I love that.
You got to fake it, though. You got to fake the confidence to talk to others. And nobody wants to chat more than an author in the green room of a festival, unless that author has a computer open. If they have a computer open, leave them alone.
Yeah.
If they're like in the corner scrolling on their phone, I've done this, like you got to just decompress for a second, fine. But if they're sitting, if they're, looking around, like say hi, chat, nobody wants to be in a weird social position. Don't worry about it.
And also, if you're a new author and you've gone to a festival and you see an author on a panel that you really like and think is really funny, and you go to their signing line, you can be like, I saw you on your panel and you were really funny. Because already, like, I don't know, like you've at least established that.
Right. Also, we kind of black out on panels and don't know what we said. So if someone's like, you did a great job, I'll be like, did I?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have something to talk about.
The other thing I hear is also don't take it personally if you're at a con or a festival and you're new and you feel like there's clicks or something. It's not that there's clicks. It's that there are people who are genuinely like, these are my good friends. I see them maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
And so that's also something to be cognizant of is, I definitely have cons that I look forward to because I'm like, oh, I get to see XYZ. I'm so excited. And then you have someone who's like, can I come to dinner with you? And you're just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to say no, but I want to see my friend.
But then conversely, there's other times where you're just sitting around and everyone's like at a table, like eating, lunch or whatever. And then you're so excited to meet, all these new people. So
you got to compartmentalize the fear, the social fear. And I know we all have it, and I'm so sorry to say this, but you got to compartmentalize the social fear. Tell yourself it's part of the job. You can do so many hard things for writing the book. You can also talk to other people.
100%. It's exactly like high school. Every adult you've ever seen has been through it. And every writer who is mid or late in their career at some point, we were all debuts and we went through it, and it's difficult and it's a nightmare, but it's also amazingly fun.
Also trust your instincts. If someone's a shithead, they're a shithead.
Yeah. And there's plenty of those. On that note, we will be back with sunnier skies and reader mailbag.
Creatives run on ideas, not gym selfies, but even creative work needs a strategy for your body. Not wellness influencer BS, not fads, not gimmicks. A clear system you can fit into a busy life so you have more energy, think clearly, and build a body that lasts.
That's the Star It System by The Ready State. It's a full training system built on the foundations of health and longevity, not trends. Each week you get real strength and conditioning sessions with clear progressions, targeted mobility to undo chair time, daily walking goals, and simple practices for sleep, nutrition, and recovery. There's a straightforward plan, video guidance, and options whether you train in a gym or at home. It's built for busy people, so it fits between drafts and deadlines without turning into another project you abandon.
If you want fewer aches and more energy, start the Star It System by The Ready State. Special $100 off discount exclusively for Plot Twist listeners. Head to thereadystate.com/starit-system. Code is Plot Twist. The link and discount code is in the show notes.
And we are back with Reader Mailbag, where we answer two of our favorite questions from the week. From Talia, this is an interesting one. How do you know when to take your art seriously? I mean, this is so existential. Right. I am at a stage of life where I need to build a career, but I'm young enough that I could dedicate a year to writing full time and seeing where that would get me. I would say first advice, listen to our episode 3. Are you a career author or are you a hobby author? Because we really, really tackle that in depth. So you have to listen to that episode. I'll let you take this one. I mean, my only thing is to say, I really believe you have to have a day job and you have to be bringing in income because otherwise there's too much pressure on the work. So as long as you're making a living, you have to fit in the writing, around it. Like I think of Hanya Yanagihara, who wrote A Little Life at Night after she was doing her day job at T Magazine. So that's what I did. School for Guinea Bowl was while I was at night or during the day, when I wasn't tutoring. So I just think you have to have income.
Right. I would say it is very possible to take your art seriously and have a day job. I would argue many writers do that. Just because it isn't the thing supporting you financially or the majority of your financial support right now doesn't mean it isn't important or central to who you are. I will say I hesitate to give advice about quitting jobs or taking gap years or sabbaticals because I don't know your situation with insurance, your support system, if you have dependents, I just don't know. And it could be various. It's like, oh, you need your job for healthcare? You should probably keep your job. Are you making minimum wage in a job that's killing you? maybe it's worth, going full tilt on the writing if you can afford to do that. I just really do not know your situation. So it's really going to be subjective to you.
Mm. And then the second question came from Shona. Should you think about film TV adaptations when writing a book? Do you factor in those realities when you're designing the work? Interestingly, in the old days, I'd almost say yes. The film TV deal was such a big part of whether like a book would kind of launch, especially a debut. And writing a book that Hollywood wanted, even in theory, just from the outside, was a key part of the lottery. And I just don't think that's true anymore. I just don't think film or TV is in the same position as it is in the entertainment ecosphere. And I say just, especially romantasy, very little romantasy is bought for film TV because it's just impossible to actually bring to life.
They're all getting snapped up. Everybody just wants to have theirs in the tank to see that when one goes to prove the concept, if it does well, they all have theirs ready to go. They've all got them in the quiver on the hot sort of genres. So it depends on, again, the genre you're writing.
Yeah. And so I just say, write your book. Hollywood will come if it's the right story at the right time.
Yeah, it used to be a really big part of like the sales narrative. If a book got the option or even the rights picked up before it was published, that would always be a big selling point in the marketing plan. Personally, I see the book as a movie in my head as I'm writing. I really do. So it's almost impossible for me not to think, I hope this becomes real in terms of an adaptation. Like it's already in my head. It's already there. I just wish I could just project it onto a screen and be done. I would say I don't factor in the slim chance of an adaptation into the work itself, like anything changed in the story or the structure. But I am already thinking about the story from a visual perspective, from a screenwriting background. But I don't change the work in any way to make it more likely to be made into a movie. I mean, if I did that, I would write books that are much cheaper to adapt.
Well, I was thinking of this question because I know so many people are waiting for the episode when we do the what happens when your book becomes a movie and actually tell all our Hollywood stories. So I think that'll probably come at some point. It'll be quite the battle.
That'll be coming from us sitting in our coffins.
Oh, man. If you'd like to submit a question to our reader mailbag, you're going to email it to mail@plottwistpod.net, PLOTTWISTPOD.net. And for our penultimate segment, Plot Twist we want to see in the real world this week.
You go first.
Okay, according to a recent study, reading for pleasure has declined 40% in recent years, which is like the most terrifying thing in the whole thing. And it makes me wonder if we still are going to have a job soon, given we write books exclusively for pleasure. And so I've been thinking of fallback plans other than being Usha Vance's GBF or Joe Alwyn's ghostwriter. And I know you think I'm always coming here with things of delusion, but I actually think I should coach a college tennis team.
Oh, my God.
Like, I understand tennis better than anyone, and I play with college kids from 3 different universities in St. Louis 5 times a week in the morning, so I know their lives and what they're dealing with. And 90% of the job is admin, which I'm a fascist control freak about. So if you have a college tennis team and you want me to coach it, like, don't reach out, but also please do.
Soman, my twist is that you stop saying terrifying shit about the future of our careers.
Oh, man.
I feel like Woody Harrelson in True Detective and you're Matthew McConaughey just spouting nonsense. I'm like, I just want you to stop saying odd shit.
I am trying to warn us.
I do think there is something here, though, in your core about how much you enjoy teaching and coaching and you're doing, Coach Alpha, you're coaching kids how to get through AI. You want to coach people how to play tennis, and and you tutored people. I think it's all about you want to teach people how to be real people in some way, to like connect in some way,
so that they will then read for pleasure.
Yeah, sure. My other twist is if you're going to write fan fiction of another person's IP and then reskin it for the market and sell it and profit off of it, I think you should have to get consent from the IP creator, and I think you should have to give some sort of compensation to the original artist. I think that's fair. I think that would solve a lot of problems. I don't know how we're navigating forward without those things happening.
Yeah, to me, it's like, we talked about the last episode. I got so infuriated that I just went crazy. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
I mean, if you're going to do it and you're going to advertise as it, why are you not getting consent and why are you not compensating?
Yeah. Other than you're picking something so big that the author just
right. Or you're picking something that the
care.
author knows it benefits them.
Yeah, true. There.
Or
Good
the
point.
Loss of the money is worth the gain in the reputation.
Yeah, good point. All right, our last segment, and the one you've been looking forward to, Pup Twist, in honor of the one and only lady who lit up my life for 2.5 wonderful years. You're going to meet Ruby, who belongs to listener Carly. Do you want to tell us about Ruby?
Sure. Ruby makes my writing life easier by checking to see if I'm alive in my room. She gives me kisses when I'm mid-writing or reading a book. She is named after the movie canon, but not book canon, shoes in The Wizard of Oz. Hello, Ruby.
Oh, she is a cutie with her little pink
She's
ball.
like a little fluffy, almost like Pomeranian Chihuahua mix,
yes.
I want to say. She looks a little bit like a little fluffy fox. Very cute.
Some Pomeranian and Chihuahua in there, I think. I suspect that Ruby has a very high-pitched bark.
I do love the idea that dogs check on us to be like, you okay in there?
Oh my God.
You remembering to feed yourself? You better remember to feed me.
Every dog who belongs to a writer, somewhere in their brain is like, I kind of got the best gig because I can sort of chill. But then they're also like, I also got a deeply anxious, stressed out human. Like most people come home and they relax. And now I have the one who, when they come home, stress. Anyway, you can find more of us on my Substack at Diary of a Novel, where I give you a weekly look inside my head, and then a very scary place. And then Instagram at SomanC is my headquarters. How about you? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and occasionally Substack.
And that is it for this episode. And we will see you, as usual, next week on Plot Twist.
Thanks, guys.
Plot Twist is hosted by Victoria Aveyard and Soman Chainani. It's produced and edited by Liam Billiam. Our logos, art, and graphics are by Michael Blank. The music is by Thieves and Louis Adrian. Production support from June Secchia.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Plot Twist wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a review to let us know how we're doing. See you next Thursday.